In Baroda, we have the story of Jamnabai. At the age of 13, a bit like Parukuti Nethyarama again, a teenager. She's married to a man nearly 20 years older than her. She's growing up in a village called Rahimatpur, the daughter of a village headman, so not from a royal background herself. Then she hears that Maharaja of Baroda is, he's been married twice. Both times he's been unlucky because he's had no children. So he's decided he's going to try a third time. So this poor 13-year-old girl is picked and given to this 38-year-old man, and she becomes his wife. Unfortunately, she doesn't have children while they are married. At the age of 17, when she is 17, the Maharaja dies. Now in Baroda, the options are two. One, the Maharani has to either produce a child, which is the next ruler, or the Maharaja has a brother, he succeeds to power. And the brother is your stereotypical textbook case of a bad prince. Tries to murder people, harasses women, kidnaps them, all of that. So bad character. The British don't like him, neither does Jamnabai. In the 1880s, there's a record that a senior British officer writes where he says that, these Indian widows, when a Maharaja dies, it's very interesting that all that time they've not been pregnant, and then the moment the Maharaja dies, they declare themselves pregnant. And that's essentially what Jamnabai of Baroda does. All these years, she's not had children. At the age of 17, suddenly, she's pregnant. Her brother-in-law doesn't believe it. He's like, this is a way to mess with me. I am entitled to the throne, and here's my sister-in-law, this girl who's come from some random village trying to snatch power. But either way, she's declared herself pregnant. Now you have to wait those 9 months or whatever, how many months they were, to wait and see if she gives birth to a male heir. And the contest between them, and that it gives you a sense of this young girl, very clear and very determined to seize power. The Maharaja, she likes wood apples. So the Maharaja her brother-in-law starts sending her wood apples, except they're injected with poison. She's cleverer than that. She doesn't eat those wood apples. She starts cooking her own food in her own bedroom, sleeping with a dog tied to her bed and with a dagger under her pillow. He starts bad-mouthing her, saying, this is some other man's child. First he claims there's no pregnancy at all. Then he says, this is some other man's child. Finally, the Maharani realizes that she's not safe, so she goes off to the British resident's house, and she's the only Indian woman to ever give birth to her child in the house of the British resident rather than in the palace. Her brother-in-law is no fool either. He follows her to the British resident's house, and he waits outside the door while she's giving birth to make sure that the baby isn't swapped, a girl child with a boy child. That's a level to which this power obviously matters to both these people. Unfortunately for her, it's a girl. Now, you would imagine that ordinarily an Indian princess defeated this way, in this political contest, she would just go back into the harem and disappear, become yet another widow in the royal harem. But she did not. Jamnabai had a lot of jewelry her late husband had given her. With the jewelry, she goes off to Pune again, same place where all the politicians are. And very shrewdly, she starts investing her jewelry in funding complaints against the Maharaja. So here she's selling her jewelry, getting the money, sending the money to Baroda, telling people, you go and complain against the Maharaja. You also go and complain against the Maharaja. So the British resident is constantly getting these letters and notices from the public in quotes, saying this is a bad Maharaja, he's oppressing us, he's this bad, he's that bad. He doesn't realize that this is actually, Jamnabai it's funded entirely by Jamnabai. Equally, she's also funding his own subordinates. So the British resident's own employees are in Jamnabai's pay, where she's bribing them also to fan his animosity against her brother-in-law. So 5 years later, the British have had it. From every direction, they're getting bad reviews about the Maharaja. They topple him from the throne. And who comes back to the Baroda palace? Jamnabai herself, all the way from Pune.
Subscribe to Sarmaya and be a part of the stories and conversations around art, history, and culture.